This video is brought to you by Quiztones, my all-time favorite app for learning frequencies.
What's up, friend? We're back in the wild. We're mixing audio, and this week we're in a completely new location. We're about 1,000 feet higher in elevation at this campsite in the beautiful mountains of Montana. You can't really see it all around me, though. I have a 360 view of mountains, and there's snow, and there's ice, and it's just beautiful. I've got my trusty sidekick Margot here. She's been pretty much sleeping all morning. As soon as we're done doing this video, we're gonna go up into the mountains and do a really big run up to this lake up there. What's crazy is 4 days ago, a grizzly bear was spotted, so fingers crossed we do not run into that guy. So today's video comes from a question I got in the last video I posted, and I talked about how many plugins that I own and how I only really use a handful of them all the time. And it's kind of funny because just over the years, I have collected so many plugins, just following sales and just slowly building up that repertoire of plugins, right? And the point I made in that video is a lot of times, especially throughout my 15 years plus of mixing audio, I always was looking for that next best thing that could get me to where I wanted to go. I always had this idea of like, oh my gosh, if I could afford this plugin, like my mixes are gonna be so much better. If I could do this, my mixes are gonna be so much better. And that wasn't always the case. Most of the plugins that I bought, I would get the plugin, use it for a week or two, and then did it help me? That's debatable. I have a lot of people driving by. What I found is there was only a handful of plugins that I would use all the time. And the thing that really made the difference in terms of my skills and developing an audio was figuring out how to use those few plugins that I loved the best possible way I can, and also learning frequency and learning how to apply frequency and to adjust frequency inside my mix. And that is honestly why Quiztones has been a sponsor of the channel for so long, is because I truly believe in that system and that app to get you where you need to be in terms of understanding what frequencies that you need to be boosting, cutting, and really training your brain to notice where those frequencies are, right? So today we're gonna be going through my favorite plugins that I just could not live without and that I use all the time. And honestly, when it comes to especially instruments, these are what I primarily use in every single session that I mix in. There's a handful of other ones where a lot of times I'm not getting what I need to out of an instrument. Maybe it wasn't recorded well or whatever the case, and I gotta kind of fake it and I gotta make it a little bit more interesting. But overall, when I'm mixing audio and everything's sounding good, these are my go-to plugins that I always use. Let's jump into these things. All right, so the session that we have here is the session from a couple videos ago, which go watch it if you haven't watched it. It's a good friend of mine, Timothy Clark, and this is a song called She Feels Like. He was kind enough to send me over these multi-tracks, and it's just such a good song and such a good case to use in terms of these plugins. So I have the session pretty much exactly where we left it last time in that video. We just did a fader mix using an SSL controller and did no other mixing besides faders. That's what I really like to start with. And then we did a little bit of analog processing on the vocals. We had a Bricasti that we remoted into a studio that's in a totally different state. And then we also used a LA2A on the vocal along with a, I forget, a NEVQ, that's what it was, a NEVQ. So normally I have my Genelex, but today, I don't know if you can hear, but it's very, very windy today. And when I'm mixing outdoors and it's really windy, I usually don't use my speakers. I've been using these Slate VSX headphones for a very, very long time since they came out, and I've gotten so used to them. And anyway, that's what we're using today. They're really, really great. I'm gonna quickly show you what I've got. I use their system-wide. I have everything kind of routed so that the system-wide is attached to my Scarlett here, and then it's just always working. Right now, I have this in bypass. So funny enough, this VSX speaker modeling is now bypass. This is the HD linear emulation. I use this almost more than I use their actual rooms and stuff. I have some preset rooms that I use all the time that I really like. But whenever I'm starting a mix, this for some reason can mess me up. I use this to check things. So typically always whenever I'm actually 100% mixing, I'm using my Genelex, and I'll mix in my Genelex, and I'll be referencing with this bypassed. So I'll kind of be just kind of referencing and making sure that I'm just in the right place, because my little Genelex don't have a good low end response. And then once the mix is in a really good place and I think it's good and we need to do some finishing touches, I will unbypass this. I'll be in my room. I have my number one set as these Genelex right here. I love Genelex, obviously, and I'll leave it here, make sure everything is working and sounding good, especially the low end, and then I'll kind of go through these different rooms and the car, and this is an AirPods, an AirPods thing. I actually like using this. I don't know. I used to actually put my AirPods in and check, but it's just faster, and it sounds almost exactly the same, so I just use this now. So we're gonna start off with the very, very first plugin, and I'm gonna go to these main guitars here, just so I can show this off. Okay, so first thing that we're gonna do is I have this kind of guitar level. It sounds pretty good where it's at. This is kind of the main guitar of this section of the song. So we're gonna just really quick, we're gonna select these tracks, and then we're just gonna create a new track, and we're gonna call this, let's see, we're just gonna put M guitar aux. And then we're gonna make sure that this goes to the correct guitar aux, which is there. Great. All right, we'll make sure it's the same color. Awesome. So I like to do this because I'm not putting individual plugins on each guitar, because I have a blend of these guitars and it sounds really good, right? This is one guitar part with some multiple microphones on it. So let's go to the first plugin. So the first plugin is right here. In Pro Tools, you can set up an EQ and then more of like a compressor to be your just default that's there all the time, that you use the most. So FabFilter, we're gonna talk about in just a second, that's an EQ, and then this SSL native channel strip. So SSL native channel strip, when this came out, this plugin, I was so stoked because I was working on a really big 96 channel duality, and right whenever it came out, we were really testing this console and testing this EQ against the console. And of course, you're never gonna get the exact same sound that you get on an EQ, on a digital plugin that you do the analog gear. It's just not the same. But I really like the way that this sounds a lot, and it has just an amazing sound. So there's technically two versions of this plugin, and I'm gonna wrap this all up into being one plugin. There's this, and then we're gonna load up the second one so I can just show you the difference here. We're gonna go down to SSL, and it's the SSL 4KB. Oh, get this out of there. So the SSL 4KB takes up a lot more processing, I found. As you can tell, it took a while for it to load up. Oh, Margot's out. It might be getting too hot for her. The sun's coming in. As you can see, I'm like hiding in the shade because the sun here is really intense. All right, so this 4KB is a very, very good plugin. I see these two plugins as the 4KB has a lot of grit, and it's older. I don't want to say lo-fi, but it's got a lot more saturation within the plugin. And so I'll use this when I need to get more out of something. Like if I have a guitar that's like way too clean and I need some grit in the high end or the mids or whatever, I'll grab this, but I'd use it sparingly because it just, you can overdo it in terms of the processing. So let's bypass this. This guy, a little bit less processing, and there's not as much saturation, so it's a lot more clean. It's like a clean and clear plugin, that classic, like almost like a 9000 J sound, right? So let's play with this guitar a little bit so I can just show you what this thing's capable of.
feels like sometimes in the morning I don't know exactly how to tell her, but I try. And if that works out well, 'cause now she feels like dancing, falling for the ocean.
Okay. So this is just a quick, just kind of showing you what this plugin does. I was just kind of boosting around, showing you the max amount, kind of going around in frequencies. I took out a bit of the high end so I can add about 11K-ish so that I can boost just an overall high to get a little more drive out of it. I wanted to get some of those low notes, so I started boosting that. This plugin's really fun because you can really start to sculpt the sound. And what I like about the SSL's version of their plugin is you can really boost without it sounding really fake. A lot of other SSL model plugins, you start to boost some of that stuff and it can kind of, there's a limit to it and it can kind of get a little bit fake sounding. So I like this. So let's just hear a before and after. We'll hear it with the mix first, so I'm gonna bypass it.
She feels like sometimes in the morning I don't know exactly how. She feels like sometimes in the morning I don't know exactly how to tell her, but I try. And if that works out well, 'cause now she feels like dancing, falling for.
Sounds pretty awesome. It sounds pretty awesome. It's great. So let's bypass this guy and let's go to the 4KB and do a similar thing. So I'm just gonna solo it just so that you can hear what's going on here, right?
Know exactly how to tell her, but I try. And if that works out well, 'cause now she feels like dancing, falling for. She feels like sometimes in the morning I don't know exactly how.
So these are very different. You can hear already. Let's do a before and after of all these. You can see me swatting. There's a lot of mosquitoes up here. The higher you get in elevation, I've noticed the more mosquitoes there are, especially whenever you're hiding in the shade. And so that might drive you crazy, but I've kind of just gotten used to it. I'd rather be way up here in the elevation. It's like a trade-off. It's a trade-off. It's cooler. It's nicer weather. The higher elevation you get, it's not as hot in the summer, but there's more mosquitoes, 100%. But the lower you go, it's hotter. There's less mosquitoes, it seems like. You know, it's give and take. It's give and take. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna just, I tried to kind of match a similar sound. Obviously, I had to make different adjustments inside the 4KB than I did the channel strip. So let's hear just without it. I'll play a couple bars, and then we'll go to the channel strip here, and then we'll go to the 4KB. So one thing I have to tell you that a lot of times when I'm mixing and I'm comparing plugins, like sometimes I'll do this when mixing. I'll be like, I'm not sure what I need. Let me just do what I can with this plugin, do what I can with this plugin, and then I'll kind of A/B them. And a lot of times I'll just close my eyes and I don't know, sometimes I'll try to like make sure I don't know what it is. So I'll sit here and close my eyes and hold down Command and click the plugin over and over and just like close my eyes and then push play and listen, and then I'll push it one more time and listen. I don't know if I'm on or off, basically. And if I catch myself listening longer than the ideal length that I had in my brain, I know that I'm onto something with that plugin. And that's kind of what happened with this 4KB. I pushed play and I really liked it. I loved the way the low end was responding. I was trying to get that low end out of the channel strip and I just wasn't quite getting it. But with that 4KB, it just has this really nice sound. I love this plugin on guitars especially, and in the mix, to me, this is the best. Let's hear it in the mix.
She feels like sometimes in the morning.
So you can hear those low notes a lot better than in the channel strip here, channel strip 2.
She feels like sometimes in the morning.
You can still hear it in the channel strip, but it's like rounder a little bit in this 4KB plugin. So as you can see, these plugins are really, really good, and they don't just work great on guitars. They work, I use them on kick drum all the time. I love the EQ, especially on the channel strip 2 in the high end and the low end on kick drums. And I'll use the compressor a lot with like toms. Sometimes I always use the compression on toms on the console. I just really like to overdrive the compressor and really push it really, really hard. And you can do the same thing on this plugin. It sounds really great. All right, so both these plugins I'm just counting as one. So this is the first in the series. They both sound really good to me. I love these guys. You cannot go wrong with these. So let's keep that 4KB on just as we're listening. And let's move on to the next one. So the next one is the Pro-Q 2, okay? So it's a plugin by FabFilter. We used it actually sculpting our reverb. And this is just a plugin that I use all the time. I cannot tell you. It's just really awesome. And let's go to this harmony group as an example. This might be a good group. So I'm going to take these 3 harmonies. There's a couple other ones, and just for this purposes, we're going to call this harmony aux. We're going to create an aux. Make sure that we're going to the backgrounds.
Know exactly how.
Okay.
Know exactly how.
Okay, this is a good example. So we're going to go to this FabFilter, and I have previously set up my FabFilter to already be loaded up with a cut, a low band here, low mid, mid, high mid, and then a high cut. I set my default to automatically open as this like JW default, JW def right there. So anytime I load this up, it loads this setting, and these are all off basically. And I like to do that mainly because it's just fast. That way I don't have to like, what I didn't like is normally whenever you load this up, it's set as, it looks like this, right? And so if I need to do a low cut, let's just say, I gotta grab this, go here, go to low cut, set my whatever, and then I can do it, right? And if I've got my JW default, that automatically loads up with the plugin. Basically, I'm gonna click this here, turn it on, and we're rocking, right? It's already set how I want it. It's ready to go. And it's the same thing with this. And I use this a lot on reverbs like we just saw. I mainly use this plugin as a cleanup. So I consider this like my cleanup tool. So typically, whenever I'm doing a mix, I'll get my main mix set up with just fader mixing. I might do a little bit of cleanup EQ on the vocal just for my own sake, but mainly do a lot of fader mixing. And then I'll go through and listen, and I start, if there's stuff peeking out in instruments that I just don't like, I'll start grabbing this plugin and start trying to cut those out while listening to the whole mix, okay? So this harmony has something that's peeking out. And the reason I love this plugin so much is because it has a graph.
Exactly how.
Right? It's got a graph here. And it pulls stuff up. And one cool thing that it has is if you hold your cursor down at the bottom,
Know exactly how.
so it leaves this up. And you got to be careful with this because you can really overdo it. But if you're having some crazy frequency that's peaking out in vocals or whatever, let's just say it's this top one right here, you can actually grab it and bring it up and down immediately. And it kind of shows you what it's doing to that actual frequency response, basically. It's pretty cool. Let's get rid of that. All right.
Know exactly how.
So these,
Exactly how.
let's turn on the mix.
Know exactly how.
Okay, so automatically, this is why I love this plugin, is because it's just so fast. I love how fast it is. I'm waving at everybody that goes by, but I love how fast it is because literally, that's what I heard earlier whenever I was just playing the guitar thing, and it's such a small little amount, and this plugin is so awesome because it's so clean. Like, I don't have to worry about doing cuts and stuff, and it's gonna add some weird digitally sounds or whatever. If you have a really, I call them cheap plugins, cheap digital plugins, a lot of times it can create a bunch of, like when you start cutting it, you lose the tone of everything, right? So let's just hear this harmony.
Know exactly how.
So small.
Know exactly how. Know exactly how.
But all it's doing is just cleaning up those low mids just a tiny bit, and it really does help with the entire track. And so yeah, Pro-Q, Pro-Q2, so good, so good. I also have Pro-Q3. Pro-Q3 is, where are we at here? Pro-Q3 is the same thing, but you can actually do dynamic EQ, so it's kind of like a compressor in the band. I'll use it sometimes, but not a lot. I try to be careful with dynamic EQ. I know that's kind of a really popular thing to use. I will use it, don't get me wrong, but I try to use it as like a last resort. Man, the wind is getting crazy. So I try to use it as like a last resort. If I find myself needing a dynamic EQ in the very beginning of the mix process, I try to ignore that and sculpt it with frequency and just normal compression before I do that. I typically try to save that to the end. If there's something I absolutely cannot fix and I have to have that dynamic EQ, I'll do it. But it's honestly pretty rare. I try to not use it as much as possible. It's just my personal preference. And I think it's because in the past I overused it, and I would get to the end of the mix process and my mix just wasn't responding right, and it didn't sound real, and I took too much life out of it. And that's just something that you can easily do with a lot of dynamic EQ inside your mix, in my opinion. I've definitely seen a lot of amazing mix engineers that I love that use it very, very, very well. I just prefer the sound of not using it as much as possible. All right, so now let's go to the vocal. I'm gonna show you my favorite compressor here. This compressor I've been using, I got this for like $3 years ago. The Waves Quiztones. This is mono because of the, hold on, let's get rid of this real quick. This is a mono stereo because we were doing some reverb stuff, so, okay. So let's go back to our Quiztones. I love this compressor. I cannot tell you, there's just something about the way it sounds, not even compressing. You just put it on whatever and it sounds good. Like a lot of times I will put it on and I'm like, oh, that's what I needed. And I use it a lot on acoustic instruments and vocals. So almost every single vocal I've ever mixed has this on it. At some point in the chain, and I use it a lot on piano. I love it on piano. I love it on a strings bus. It sounds very good. Acoustic guitars sometimes. It kind of depends. If it's a slower acoustic guitar, I like it. If it's something really fast, I don't really like the response of it, but it's just such a great plugin. This thing's awesome. Let's listen to this vocal here.
'Cause she feels like Sometimes in the morning I don't know exactly how to tell her, but I try.
So you can hear this plugin has a tone. It's very subtle, but it has just this tone that it implements, and the way to explain it is a lot of times in the studio, whenever I worked with a ton of analog gear, sometimes I'd just be missing something from a certain sound, like a vocal or maybe a guitar or whatever, and I would run it through a compressor, not to compress it, but just to get the sound of the compressor, because a lot of that analog gear just has a really cool sound when you run it through it, and it just sounds good. And sometimes I'll do like a few different pieces of gear just to get a mishmash of all these different tones, and it just sounds good. And that's to me what this plugin is for. And so in a mix, you can hear it really well. So let's unsolo this, and I'm gonna turn it off and on as we listen to some of these vocals here.
She feels like sometimes in the morning I don't know exactly how to tell her, but I try. And if that works out well, 'cause now she feels like dancing, falling for the ocean.
All right, listen to this last couple lines. So this is without it.
'Cause now she feels like dancing, falling for the ocean. 'Cause now she feels like dancing, falling for the ocean.
It brings the vocal out a little bit more. There's definitely a little bit of gain, but there's just a tone that it imparts on the vocal, and I love it. And it does it to pianos, does it to all instruments. It's great. All right, so also what's cool about this plugin is you can use it a little heavier in terms of compression. I won't do this often, but it still sounds good. Let's do it.
Know exactly how to tell her, but I try. And if that works out well, 'cause now she feels like dancing. Know exactly how to tell her, but I try. And if that works out well, 'cause now she feels like dancing, falling for the ocean.
Right? It just has this, it's really good. It's just really good. I love this compressor. That's why I use this all the time. Again, I cannot say enough good things about this thing. All right, let's keep moving. Let's keep moving through these. I'm getting excited. The next thing that I really like is the Neutron 4, Isotope Neutron 4. And I love 2, 3, 4. They might even have a 5 now. I don't know. I kind of just stopped at a certain point. I actually kept 2 forever because I just loved it. But let's just go. Let's see what we got. Let's go to the bass here. I'm just gonna do it on the bass aux, just to show you a couple different instruments here. So we're gonna go to my Isotope. Where are you at here? Neutron 4. I actually use Neutron 4 a lot on the bass guitar. It's just a very good plugin. So it's got a very good EQ. This EQ is very similar, in my opinion, to the FabFilter EQ. Sounds very good. It's very clean. Again, I will use this to clean up. I won't use this very much to boost unless it's something really, really small. But honestly, if I'm going to do EQ, I will typically start with just to show you here, start with my FabFilter Pro-Q, and I'll do any cleanup that I need, and then I'll move into this. So what I mainly use this for is I use it for the exciter, and I really like the transient shaper too. Those are the two things that I really like it for. So we're gonna go to the exciter. I'm gonna show you with this bass guitar. Like a lot of times, if I'm just not getting that edge out of the bass guitar, I'll put the multiband somewhere in here, and then I'll play with it. Typically, I'll do this with all the tracks in, but I'm just showing you kind of how this plugin sounds. Let's hear.
She feels like the coast on Monday morning. I don't know exactly what sings or floats, so I talk all done.
Nice, okay. All right, so you can hear already that a lot of what this plugin is doing is making the bass a little bit more clearer without necessarily bringing up all the gain, right? So in the high end here especially, I'm hearing just a little bit more of that clarity in those notes on the high end, and then just a little bit of a fun, slightly distorted tone in the low end with both the amp and the DI together. Okay, let's turn it off. I lost the energy whenever it was off. So that's an easy way. I'm not even EQing anything. I have no compression. It's just an easy way to kind of bring that bass up in the mix a little bit. I use it all the time. It's awesome. And again, I'll use it. Let's go grab some. Let's do the kick drum. I just want to show you. We'll just add the transient shaper. I love the sound of this transient shaper. To me, it's one of the best that there is. So I like to keep the transient to be the whole thing. I don't like to have multi-band transients. I think it makes it sound weird, just my opinion. But let's see what we got here. See? It's pretty crazy how much of a difference that is in the mix. Let's bypass it. Turn it on. And that's just such a little bit of a change. I love I love Neutron. They do so good. Sometimes the transient shapers can mess with the tone too much, but this one's just so clean. I barely am moving it. I might have a little bit too much attack, but I'm just barely doing anything. And it really makes the kick a little bit more, just more attack, and the sustains gets out of the way so that the guitars and the bass and the snare drum can come in, you know? It's cool. It's awesome. Love this thing. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about, let's see, where can we put this thing? What do we got here? So let's just go to the snare drum here. Obviously, you know, there's no compression or anything like that on here, but I'm going to go to my next plugin, and we're going to go to EQ, and a plugin that I love so much. I think this is a very underrated plugin, is the Shep 73. This thing just sounds so good. Margot, you want to lay down? Margot's out. All right. So I just want to show you this plugin. You barely need to do anything with it, and it's so sensitive, and it reminds me a lot of the analog version of this plugin, the Neve. Let's listen to it.
Feels like.
Okay, so all I did was do a tiny bit of EQ. Let's bypass this, listen to about a bar or so, and then we'll unbypass and listen to the difference. Okay, on. And for fun, let's put this thing on the, well, let me just copy it over. Let's put this on the kick drum too, because it sounds really good on a kick drum as well. All right, let's turn these off. And on. And for fun, because I'm getting in the zone, I'm hearing things now. Let's bring this to the shaker.
She feels like sometimes in the morning I don't know exactly how to tell her, but I try. And if that works out well, 'cause now she feels like that.
So sometimes you can tell I really, really like this plugin. I just love the sound of it, and it gets me excited to mix. It makes me feel like I'm using the gear. I love this thing. And sometimes what I'll do is if I love, like the shaker and the tambourine, I really just want to hear the high end. That's like the high end sparkle. So sometimes I'll boost it quite a lot, and maybe sometimes the low end of some things, and then I'll bring it down in volume, and just to get that high where I need it, and all the other stuff gets lowered basically. I don't know. I love it. Love that thing. So the next thing that we're going to talk about, and we're going to go ahead and move this to the snare since we're here, is I really like another plugin that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about recently. I don't really go on the internet very much, I guess. But I love this H-Comp. This was the first compressor I ever bought for myself. And I think I'm just so used to it, and I love the sound of it. So I'm going to show you just a couple ways that this works very, very well. All right, so the number one thing, always turn the analog off. Just anytime you see an analog in a plugin, turn it off. You don't need it. They need to keep that stuff out. I love this plugin. I think, again, because I'm just so used to it, but I just love how easy it is to use, and it's an easy to understand compressor, and it just has some cool functions that was a little bit ahead of its time, in my opinion. You can tell it has a cool sound. It's great. I love this plugin. It just sounds so good on drums, in my opinion. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a cool way that you can use this. So there's two ways that you can do this. We're going to go ahead and add this again. So we're going to go to this H-Comp. And let's just hear the drums real quick. There's a fun way how you can do parallel processing with this guy. And I like the way that it works with this mix here, and I'll show you how it works. So we're gonna bring the ratio up. I'm gonna compress the crap out of this thing. Okay, now I'm gonna bring the mix knob all the way to dry. We're gonna unsolo, and I'm gonna bring it up to where I think it sounds good in the track. super cool. It adds a lot of intensity, it adds a lot of punch. Let's bypass this real quick. Unbypass. Again, we're not trying to overdo it. We're just doing little things to bring up the mix and make it sound awesome. That's as simple as it is. Okay, so this is one way that you can do this and do this parallel compression, but there's another way that I like better. So I always have this D crush right here, and this D crush is being fed from the output of my drum aux, okay? So I'm gonna copy that down to the D crush, turn this off, take this plug-in, we're gonna move this to 100%, and then I'm gonna go ahead and just bring this up so that it's sending now. It's sending all of our drums to the D crush. Sometimes I'll make a different send where I'm not sending rooms or the overheads or whatever, but in this case, we're just sending everything over there. All right, and then now I have a fader. All right, so I have a fader that I can basically do that same thing. So instead of using this mix knob, I have a fader now, which is really powerful because you can actually start to do automation to where as the song gets bigger and more intense, you can bring up this drum crush, this mix knob, if you will, parallel compression, and really make the intensity go bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's a cool way to make your song have movement with the drums without physically just turning them up, you know? It makes it more edgy. So let's do the same thing and bring the drums to a good spot here. Okay, so another thing that I like to do too, I meant to just show you guys just some plugins, but I'm just rolling. I'm feeling good. I just love this song. I think I'm just excited to mix it. We're gonna add a little bit of high end on this crush. Muted.
She feels like sometimes in the morning I don't.
You see what I mean? See the difference that makes? And I haven't even really sculpted the drums. I haven't done anything really. I've just been messing with more of the outputs. So real quick, let's get rid of this guy. What I'm gonna do, my computer's in the sun. Normally I don't, I try to keep it in the shade. It's starting to get hot. But we're gonna do a before and after. So I'm gonna mute this, and we'll turn off these plugins, and we'll listen to a little bit, then we'll turn them on. Pretty sweet, right? Pretty sweet. All right. Last plugin. We're on the last plugin before my computer overheats and dies. It's the one negative about mixing outside. You got to be kind of careful. All right, so we're going to go to the vocal. I just wanted to show you this because I love this thing. Let's see if my computer makes it. Whoops. Oh, here he is. So this is from Sonox. This plugin's called Voca. This plugin came out, and gosh, I've just been obsessed with it. I love this thing. Maybe I might have to move my computer over a little bit. Get out of the, we're gonna be mixing from the side. There we go. Okay, so I love this plugin. It's awesome on the vocal. I'm gonna show you really quick before my computer dies. Let's solo up this vocal. Very easy to use. Compression, you do this slider. You have stabilize, that like stabilizes the, it basically stabilizes every word, so it kind of brings up the level and down the level. Then you got some saturation and focus, and then the soften. I don't really use the saturate very much. I don't use the focus very much. I love the soften, and I love just the little bit of compression that it defaults to, and then I love the stabilize. It has this auto input that moves the input up and down. I don't really use that. I don't very much, but really what I love about this thing is the stabilize and this soften. And let me show you what this does. Here we go. Oh, let's get to where the vocal comes in.
'Cause she feels like sometimes in the morning I don't know exactly how to tell her, but I try, and if that works out well.
Let's hear it with the band.
She feels like sometimes in the morning I don't know exactly how.
All right, so what this is doing is just making the vocal slightly compressed, a little more clear from word to word, and then it's softening the harshness in the vocal and some of the S's. Sometimes I'll have to add some more de-essing after it, but it works very, very well. So let's hear a before and after. Let me bypass it.
She feels like sometimes in the morning I don't know exactly how.
All right, turn it on.
She feels like sometimes in the morning I don't know exactly how to tell her, but I try, and if that works out well.
All right, so again, I'm catching myself not wanting to stop it. That, to me, that tells me I'm getting to the right place. There's definitely a few frequency things that I want to clean up in the vocal, but overall, that before and after is kind of crazy, because before the voca, I can hear everything, it's okay, I'm getting a little bit of harshness, and I'm not hearing all the words, and then with this plugin with a couple adjustments, all of a sudden I can hear the words, and it sounds mixed already. And again, we have like almost no reverb. The only reverb we have is a little bit of vocal. We have no real cleanup EQ. All we have is fader mix and then a little bit of these plugins that I've kind of thrown in there. And the mix is already coming together. It's already sounding really, really awesome. So those are my favorite plugins that I use all the time. And you can hear how most of these are small adjustments. You know, I'm not doing anything here that's doing some wild and crazy things, I guess, besides the crush, the drum crush, we're kind of going intense, but everything else, we're just doing small little things, and you can hear how over time these small little things can build to producing something really, really great. And that's another reason why I don't really like to use the dynamic EQ and stuff like that right off the bat, because I want to slowly build this and then find out at the end if there's something crazy that's happening. Because a lot of times I can get through the entire mix without doing stuff that's super intense, right? If I do my fader mix and I get my faders sounding really awesome all together, and I'm using just the faders to get the bulk of my work, I might not have to EQ certain things too much. Whereas if I'm just bringing up faders without kind of mixing them, and I immediately go into the guitars or the vocal and I start using compression, I start using EQ without getting the whole grasp of the entire mix, sometimes that can cause you to over process in the beginning. And I've found that it's very hard to come back from over processing in the beginning, because a lot of times when you're listening to these songs, you have such a small finite time of hearing the song for the first time and getting truly inspired by it, versus getting super nitpicky and science about it and hearing it over and over and over, and then all of a sudden you lose your reference. And when you lose your reference for where you're trying to go, it's really hard to come back from that. I've been there a bunch of times, and when that happens, hopefully my deadline isn't coming up, and hopefully I can take a week or 2 or 3 off from the song so that I can just grasp what's important about this mix. Because if I can get to that point and I can take the mix as a whole and truly hear it from an artist perspective and a fan's perspective, the choices that I'm making within that mix are so much more powerful. And when that happens, I get way less revisions from an artist because I'm connected to something that they're connected to, if that makes any sense at all. So if you're super into this and you want to learn more about this and really dive deep into this style of mixing, in 4 weeks from now, we are doing a mixing mastermind. So it's only a small group of people, and I'm very specific on who is going to be let into this group of people. So if you're interested at all, click the link in the description and you'll have to talk with me, and I got to make sure that you're the right fit to be in this group, because I really only want people that are super dedicated, want to grow, want to help each other, and want to take their mixing skills and get better clients that align way more with their values and way more with where they want to go. So basically, it's a 4-week mastermind where we meet 3 times a week. We record all the calls and all that stuff, so if you can't quite make the time, then you can re-watch it. There's gonna be sessions that we work on every single week. Everybody's gonna mix the same songs every week. We're gonna rate each other. It's gonna be so much fun, and I'm so excited because I love mixing. I absolutely love mixing for people, and I love being able to help artists bring their vision to life and get it out into the world, because I truly think music is so important for the soul, for humanity, all those different things. And the biggest reason why I've made this YouTube channel is because I've been training engineers for years in studio and in live sound and in musicals. And I love finding people who truly want to grow and truly want to collaborate and work together to get where they want to go. It's just so much fun seeing engineers grow in that way. I have a handful throughout the years that have kind of stuck with me through a lot of years, and it's just so much fun to see where they were when we kind of first started working together and where they are now. And I just can't tell you how happy and how proud of them that I am every single day. And so I'd love to do that with you. Just click the description, book a call with me, and I'd love to talk and chat if you're interested. If not, thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate it, and I will see you on the next one. Peace, friend.